Good afternoon and welcome back to the 2019 edition of TBD, your Colorado Springs real estate podcast. I'm Rob Thompson, associate broker here at the agency here in Colorado Springs, and I am joined by my colleagues,
Mocha Miller,
Jesse Campbell.
Welcome back. And this is our first podcast in about 5 or 6 months because I was in tech training, but we're back. And then today's topic is going to be rent to own, and what that means. And we have Mocha's got one position, Jesse's got another one. And let's first start with the definition of rent to own. What does that mean?
It means pretty much that the game plan is to rent a house or whatever until you can own it. That's pretty much the colloquial way to put it. The other way is a lease option where you're renting a place for 3 to 5 years or so with the option to buy it later on, obviously with a down payment up front though.
Okay, that's a baseline definition. Do you agree, Mocha?
I do.
Okay, and Jesse, before the podcast, I asked you what your position was, and you said bad/insidious.
Insidious. Yes.
So here, your first round, first question goes to you. Why is it bad or insidious?
So the definition of insidious is something that is in the works that is bad for you that you're not aware of. So like an alligator creeping up on you in the swamp has an insidious intent. They're going to bite your face off, but they're not upfront about it. As far as rent-to-own goes, you hear a lot of people saying like, oh, well, my uncle's, Joe's, grandma's, Nana sold him a house over in Oklahoma. It's like, okay, well, that's the exception to the rule. If you're looking for a rent-to-own, that means you don't have one of those exceptions to the rule. You don't have some Nana somewhere that's willing to part with her house for a really good price. That means that you have to go out and you have to find someone who's selling their house rent to own. Now, maybe when the market turns and we're more in a buyer's market, then it might make more sense to do rent to own. But right now, when we have such a strong market here in Colorado Springs for sellers, there's absolutely no reason whatsoever to do rent to own. If a seller is selling their house rent to own, then either they're getting something out of it that they wouldn't have gotten on the open market, or there's something wrong with the place. To kind of give like a quick example of what I mean, I had been representing a buyer for a house out in Penrose, I believe it was, and the seller was going to sell it to us for $175. We went under contract, everything was great, but what happened is that the title wasn't purged, and so it can't finance unless the title is purged, and that means that pretty much, legally speaking, it's a plot of dirt with a car sitting on it. That's what that means. Purging the title means making the two titles one. So because we couldn't get it financed, he had to sell rent to own. And this is I wish I remember his name so I could put it out there for everybody to be aware of, but this is actually a licensed agent, and he had a game plan to just go and do rent to own with $15,000 down, $1,500 a month for 10 years. That is $180K, $5,000 more than my client was going to pay for it for a property that cannot finance.
And in the end, in that particular instance, the title would still need to be purged.
Not necessarily for the rent to own, because if he's doing a seller financing, then he can just sign the title over when the lease option, as it were, was complete. And he would be signing it over in 2 separate parts.
Okay.
And if he's slick enough, then that poor idiot has no idea what they just bought.
Okay, that's a good example, ad hominem attacks notwithstanding. Okay. What are some of the pitfalls of rent to own besides title?
So if you're doing rent to own, you don't know what's wrong with the place. You're probably not working with a real estate agent for one, and they don't want you working with a real estate agent because they're going to push an inspection, obviously. And then as far as due diligence documents goes, you don't have a lender or a realtor doing due diligence documents. You don't necessarily even have a title company doing due diligence documents, so you have no idea what's going on with this place. If that's not the case, then you've got to be overpaying for it, because there's no reason for a seller to ever go rent to own unless they're going over market value.
Okay. Mocha.
So I'm, as you know, for rent to own, actually, in the sense of I'm here to present the Home Partners of America option. But I will say this, I absolutely agree 100% with what Jesse has to say. The reason we're here is because there has been a fair bit of debate about whether Home Partners is actually a good thing or a bad thing. And here at the agency, and particularly under the leadership of Rob Thompson and Paul Collins, we are encouraged to really always investigate and always look into what's best for the client. And so I've spent easily 5 hours looking into and researching home partners and wrapping my mind around going through training, understanding exactly what the program is so that I can unpack that. And I will say this, so in principle, I 100% agree with you. And I think that's a completely crappy model, and I would never do it. Rent to own as a concept came out of a crashed market where sellers simply couldn't sell, and so they rented it and said, hey, what you pay the mortgage as rent, we'll put that towards you buying it. Here's what's different, and if I could, I'd just unpack what Home Partners of America is about. So Home Partners of America, first off, you're not going to run into title. You're not going to run into any issues with who owns what, clear title or anything, because the first thing you do, you have to apply. You have minimum standards. You have to make $50,000 a year. You have to have a minimum 550 FICO score. You're run through their background check, evictions, criminal history, etc. Now, if you pass that application process, then you move on, and Home Partners of America is a corporation that actually buys it, just like I would go out with any other buyer, and it's bought, inspections are done, and repairs are made, and title is clear. It's all a completely 100% normal transaction, and then you are renting it back from that company. Here is where Rent to Own and Home Partners of America are different. Rent to Own, your rent, if you will, is going towards the equity of purchasing that home. What you need to understand about Home Partners is it's a stopgap. Here's where I see it being good for people. It is a place that you can go. You want to get into a home, and while you're building your credit, you have been relocated and moved 3-4 times. You're bouncing from rental to rental because it gets sold or because they jack up the prices. Everything is laid out up front. You have up to 5 years to stay in that home. As long as you're compliant with their rules and you're on time with your payments, you can stay there for 5 years. So Home Partners of America is actually a fantastic option if you qualify for people who don't even necessarily want to own. They can, because you don't have to ever buy this home. That's part of the great thing. You're not in a contract to buy this home. You have first right. You have first right of refusal. Therefore, Home Partners of America can't ever sell that out from under you without offering it to you first. So that's cool. There's an agreed upon 5% annual appreciation, whereas we're looking at 6 to 12% here. Average is 6%. Home appreciation on the west side, we're looking at 8 to 12 over the last 5 years. So it's below what our market appreciation is, but you don't ever have to buy. So if the market does tank, you don't have to buy it. You can stay there and only rent. You can stay there and buy it as soon as you're ready. But one of our lenders said, well, why on earth would anyone do that? Why would you go through that? Well, some people are just so tired of moving, and rather than, here's where I would depart from Jesse's opinion, rather than move for another 6 months and then move again or be caught in another year lease, sometimes people just need 3 to 6 or 9 months to repair their credit to be qualified to buy. You can buy this home at any time with Home Partners of America. Home Partners does not provide mortgage, so it's not a conflict of interest in that regard. They're not going to screw you over on finances. You're responsible to get your own financing. Everything is really above board, and I think what I like about it most is you have up to 5 years to get yourself in order, and you have a very clear track of what your rent's going to be during that time. And here's another great thing. The rent is 3.75% rent increase every year, and here we're looking at 5% annual, 5 to 11% annually in rent increase in Colorado Springs. So it just really does make sense in my research for some people who they're just like, I can't do one more move. I'm ready to buy, but I'm just 6 months shy or 3 months shy. Is there something else I could do?
Okay.
How does Home Partners of America make a return? They're a company.
Yeah.
They gotta make money. They gotta keep the lights on. Where does their money come from?
That's a great question. I would say, obviously, they are making their money. Now, in terms of a deposit, you're going to bring a deposit of $3,000 down. It's going to be, you get that back like a security. It is a security deposit. It's not, so it's a little bit higher than going into a rental. That's not, doesn't go towards rent. It doesn't, but if you, when you move out, if everything is in good condition, you get that back. When you buy it, it goes toward the price of your home. So clearly, they're, you know, they do, right, wrong, or indifferent, they're a cash buyer. So how they're going to make their money is, let's say a home's on the market for $300,000. They're going to be one of the offers, and they might go in and offer $275 cash. So yeah, they're making offers. Some people might call it lowball, but I've also researched that where they are in line with market value. They might be lower than some of our inflated bidding wars. So where a $300,000 home now in our market might go for $315 because of bidding wars, they might come in with an offer of $275 cash. And some people are really just ready to get out of their home, and they'd rather take the sure deal, the done deal.
That's actually one of the things I don't like about them, is that a lot of the people that they're buying from, and this is something they've been in trouble for, is predatory buying, where they're going after people in foreclosures and lowballing them up to 20%. And these are people, granted, yeah, sure, maybe these are people that would have gone through the foreclosure process and gone bankrupt had they not come in and bought their house. But they're, as far as I'm concerned, they're no better than a lot of these investors that people just so happen to hate, who are coming into these pre-foreclosure houses and buying them for well below what they could actually be purchased for on the open market. And a lot of these pre-foreclosure people, they have no idea that they have different options. These guys, they're not licensed agents like we are. If we were to go and try to flip houses, we have to provide comps for what their houses could sell for before we give them that lowball offer, whereas they don't have to even do that. And so on one end, they're kind of screwing over people in pre-foreclosure, if you ask me. And these are people who at one time were people like the good people in like our first home buyers group, or the other good people in our rentals group. They were the same people like that one day who've fallen on hard times, and now our Home Partners of America is coming in and absolutely gutting their equity, something that they've built up. And then I will say that it's good that they're not making that deposit a permanent thing, because that's another thing that's bad with rent to own and specific lease option purchases, where if, like that guy that I mentioned earlier, that $15,000, that poor idiot's not getting that back, and that's normally the biggest pitfall. But the way that they make the return is that they are lowballing people who are in dire need of some help. And I don't know, I can't get behind that, especially if they're not even giving adequate comps to the seller.
Well, that would be the responsibility of the listing agent to give adequate comps.
They don't have listing agents, though. These are people, I mean, they can buy on the open market, and they certainly do at times.
That's
and
the
those
majority. Home Partners, actually,
Sure.
from all of the reviews that I've read, Home Partners, the majority of who they do business with, yeah, of course they're going to make a lower offer, a cash offer, but these are on open market. They don't actually buy these houses and then provide them for you to choose from. People go to the MLS and go to houses that are listed with listing agents on the open market. So if a seller takes a lower offer, a cash offer, even if it's $10,000,
sure,
that's their choice.
Sure.
So I don't consider that predatory. I think that's again where we might depart, because that's not what I have found in the people who have actually reviewed how their offer process went. It was within a fair market value percentage. However much Home Partners offers, it's not lowballing. That was what I read. So
I mean, they got to be making returns somehow. I mean, if they're not lowballing people, then they got to be selling to you for more.
The math on say $1,500 a month rent on a $275,000 home, if you bought it for cash, it's 6.5%. That's a 6.5% return annually on that $250K. So that's better than a checking account. Yeah, savings account. Yeah.
So I mean, that's one thing I tell people all the time is you gotta look where the money's going. They're making a return somehow. If they're not lowballing people, then they're highballing you. They're making a return off of you. And there is that thing that you just mentioned, how a lot of rents are going up by 5 to 11%. That's true, but that's not necessarily what's happening everywhere. A lot of people are in places that they've been in for 2-3 years, and rents maybe going up $40. When I was renting, they went up $40 year over year, and that's nowhere near what a lot of people are experiencing. But if you look at it this way, If you were to purchase from Home Partners of America, you're buying at a markup. If you just work on your stuff for like, I've never had a single client who couldn't work on their credit for a year and purchase at that time. And I will concede that maybe there are the special circumstances where they'll be ready in 6 months and they really want to buy, but they don't want to, maybe they're getting kicked out of their house or whatever, and they're being forced to move. That's unfortunate, but I will steadfastly hold to my opinion that if you are looking to do rent to own, look elsewhere. That's insidious is the word again.
When you say look elsewhere, you mean look at other options.
Look at other options.
Okay.
Get yourself ready. Talk to a lender. Talk to a mortgage broker. Someone. You don't even have to talk to credit repair specialists. A lot of these mortgage brokers and lenders and stuff like that, they already have third-party people that they work with that will help you for free often with your credit. And so I think it's just...
Well, aren't those, to play devil's advocate, aren't those same folks looking to make money too?
Yeah, and they make about something like, I think, 1% off of the purchase price, give or take. Just like we make, and those houses that Home Partners of America are buying up to, if they're on the MLS, when they're going on off of the MLS, they're still paying, up to 6% for agents' commissions as well. And so there is still, people are still lining their pockets elsewhere. But I think Home Partners of America, they're lining their pockets where people don't need to pay that markup to have someone line their pockets. I line my pockets when I make a sell, sure, but I don't know. I'm not trying to take advantage of people who are in dire need. I give everybody the same advice that if you think you need to look for a rent to own, you need to look for something else. You need to talk to a mortgage professional and get your credit fixed. You need to save up some money. You can't just get something out of nothing. And I think that's the biggest point that needs to be made here is you don't get something from nothing. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this Home Partners of America thing. A lot of people are looking at it like a free lunch, but there's just no such thing.
I think, so in fairness, I agree 100% with everything you've said. I think that in the reality of, if you actually look at the details of the program, you see it's lined out. They do a very good job of being very transparent about what you're paying for. So I think that I still have, based on my own research, a good opinion until proven otherwise about Home Partners as an option, as a tool. It is not for everybody, and I would agree with you that, and you'll see this all the time. The very first piece of advice that we give is, have you talked with the lender yet? Because even if it's 6 months, a year from now, even if you're you've just gone through a divorce and you found out you have 6 months to either buy your home or sell your home, then I would say you have that time. The mortgage professional is where you start. No matter when you start, that's where you start. So I agree with that. I think that in the situation where if that is not going to work for you, I think it's a tool. And I do depart from your opinion about Home Partners because until proven otherwise, the reviews that I've read and everything is very transparent and everything is very orderly and everything is not nebulous. I would personally say, okay, I wouldn't hesitate. The only downside is this: you are going to have $3,000 sitting there untouched. It's in essence a security deposit. And one other thing that I didn't say, and that this is kind of a big deal for our group, but while you are renting that home that you have then gone and picked out and you have chosen that home, you're allowed to have 3 pets, up to 180 pounds of worth of pets. Wow. So that's another issue. Of course, they do have some restrictions. You can't have a pit bull, a Rottweiler, or a Mastiff, or a Pinscher. But you can have 3 furry animals, and they can be up to 180 pounds cumulative.
I will say that the business model is there for a reason. This is my concession. The business model is there for a reason. Stores like those rent-a-center places where you buy that 72-inch TV, quote unquote now. I'm doing air quotes, everybody. You buy that 72-inch TV, quote unquote now, and you make payments on it every month. And they're also very upfront about it. But you will, at least for those TVs in specific, you're going to pay double, sometimes triple for that stuff. And that's kind of my point, is to make sure you're really, really assessing your own situation, and you're not just being, dare I say, lazy and impatient. If you can wait, you absolutely should. You should repair your credit and just buy outright. Mathematically, that is the best thing you can do for yourself. Do not go to the rent-a-center and buy that TV at a 300% markup. It's not their fault that people are doing the irrational route and buying a TV that they don't need at a price that they can't afford over time. That's my thing about even the Home Partners of America. You are right; they are extremely transparent about the way that they do business, and that's good. And businesses like these, they have their position in the market, but a lot of people that are partaking in that kind of business model have no business doing that whatsoever. There obviously are specific circumstances where even I would concede and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, probably go take that route, but a vast majority of the time, that's not going to be the case. And if you're wondering if that's you, it's probably you listener.
And I would, once again, I would say I think it's a tool that, when investigated, you could see that it caps out that, number one, you're not locked into buying that. Number two, the annual appreciation is lower than what you would pay is 5% annual appreciation. Currently, that's lower, and it's historically lower than we've seen in 5 years. So I don't. While I understand and I agree, I respect your caution. I would also say that currently, as a stopgap, and if you can get the house that you, here's maybe my thought. If you can get the house that you would have bought, and if you didn't have to go through Home Partners of America, and if you can qualify for that house and you love that house and you can see yourself living there 5 to 10 years, then maybe it's a good tool.
I do have one question about the structure of those deals. What happens if the home doesn't appraise in 3, 4, 5 years?
You never ever have to buy the home. The agreed upon amount is with a 5% annual appreciation. You do not have to buy the home. Are you asking if there's power to negotiate?
Correct.
I don't know that.
Okay.
That is a good question.
Okay. We should post that as a follow-up in the comments. Just what happens if the market turns and it drops 6% instead of gains 5? Then when the person goes to do traditional financing for that property, then there'll be a gap.
I would assume, and I never assume. It makes an ass out of you and me, but I would assume that if that were the case market-wide, that it would behoove them to. They're obviously going to sell that home at an adjusted.
I'd be curious.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to know. Okay, well, I think any last 30 seconds on the clock.
I'm right, Jesse's wrong.
No,
Ooh.
that's never the case.
Zing.
My biggest thing, don't. If you have the option to not be lazy, don't be lazy. Go fix yourself. Do the work. It's worth it. Build your life. Stop doing these right here, right now things. The reason why a lot of people are in these situations is because they keep on taking these right here, right now routes. That's not the right route to take. If it were, lazy people would be millionaires. Elon Musk would be poor. He would be a peasant right now. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
And honestly, I would say that my opinion and my viewpoint is different. There are people who are single moms who have really wrecked finances, and they're just trying to figure out what's the best thing to do for their family. This may not be the best thing, but it's a tool. So I think probably a point we can all concede on is the best thing is to sit down with professionals.
Yes.
Don't guess. Don't take someone's word for it. Don't take my word for it, or Home Partners of America website, or Jesse's, whatever. Sit down with a professional and let us help you and let us get you in front of a mortgage broker.
Yeah, look at the numbers first. Because I will say that there are specific people that might benefit from this, like for real. But look at the dang numbers.
Absolutely.
Like, holy hell.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that'll be the last parting wisdom is always look at the numbers, follow the math.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
this has been TBD. Talk to you later. Bye.